Thank you so much for continuing to listen to American Medicine Today. I am Kimberly Bonatti, joined by my friends Ethan Euchre.
Happy to be here.
Yes, Jeff Wagstaff.
Hello, and thanks to everyone for listening.
Yes, and world-renowned orthopedic surgeon Dr. Alfred Bonatti. Thank you for sharing your time. Now, our next guest developed a powerful mind-body strategy that helped him recover from cancer more than 20 years ago. Please welcome Dr. Habib Sadeghi, author of The Clarity Cleanse. He is also the spiritual advisor to actress Gwyneth Paltrow. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yes.
Well, we appreciate it. And before we get into what the Clarity Cleanse is, why don't you tell us how you developed it to help yourself recover from cancer 20 years ago?
You know, just like everything else, every trailblazer, they don't really come with a manual. You go through it empirically by trial and error. Second year in medical school, I was given a diagnosis, and including a 70% chance of metastasis. That's when the cancer spread everything. And the background of, this time was Scott Hamilton nearly died of testicular cancer, which was the diagnosis that I was given. And Lance Armstrong nearly died. He lost part of his lungs, part of his brain. So at the age of 26, what was offered to me, part of it was what's referred to as retroperitoneal lymphadenectomy. It's a procedure, at the time it was 16 hours, that they cut you open from your pubic bone all the way up to your chest bone.
Ooh.
And after that, they take samples of lymph nodes, and radiation and chemotherapy was offered, although I don't really recommend this for everyone. But at the time, for me, that's not what I did. I chose to do it differently, and that was really the crucible of what started me on this journey of the Clarity Cleanse.
So what was it that you did?
Well, I had the affected testicle, which removed, and then I started traveling and paying attention, and I started eating healthier. And really the bulk of what I did was an archaeological digging of years of emotional abuse, which had contributed to my physiological state. Eventually, I ended up getting a master's in spiritual psychology with a fellowship in consciousness, health, and healing, and that was really the bulk of it. And when you look at these 12 steps, of course, there is a dietary guideline, intentional unsaturation diet, but the most important aspect is to really give specific tools that people can use. It's as simple as a specific way of journaling, what I refer to as Pew 12, purged emotional writing, 12 minutes a day. There is a template for the linguistic of compassionate forgiveness. These are some of the things that wasn't really offered in my medical school. I mean, I'm not sure, Dr. Moran, if this is something that you were provided, but in my medical school, only 3 hours was all that was dedicated for nutritional aspect of health.
No, I didn't. I didn't have that opportunity.
Sort of the crux of what you're talking about, especially developing this sort of almost like a holistic approach, I guess, in the sense of the mind-body connection that you talk about. And to me, it almost seems like a relatively new thing. I know in Eastern philosophy and Eastern medicine, it was a lot more normal. It was the status quo, is that, yes, of course, your stress in your life is going to affect your health. And it seems to me that only recently in the past, 15 to 20 years, as you're saying, did we start to see the connection there. And you actually say in your book that stress and negative emotions can affect you on the cellular level. Explain that.
If we look at what actually occurs, we have thoughts. Well, what do these thoughts do? These thoughts, they contribute to production of what we now call neurotransmitters. Serotonin, glutamine, glutamate, GABA, melatonin, histamine to some aspect, epinephrine, norepinephrine. What do these neurotransmitters do? Well, they create feelings. You feel high, you feel low, you feel happy, you feel sad. But what do these feelings do? They contribute and up-regulate. They change our hormones, growth hormone, testosterone, estrogen, estriol, bias, DHEA, and so forth. But what do these hormones do? Well, they contribute to what's referred to as our emotional state or personality eventually, and it creates a temperament. If a human being is stressed for a period of time long enough, they get stuck in it. They get stuck in that fight or flight response. And these are people that they tend to be hyper vigilant. Now, their diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. But what is that? Well, this is a person that was right in the fire. It was on the fire line. And now all of a sudden when they leave, they're still, their temperament, their personality is stuck in that zone.
Right.
And that's really what's occurring. So the idea that our thoughts and our physical state, they're interrelated, I'm not sure if it's really that new. Because, when we look back, this was talked about. I mean, we can go as far back as 1700. And this is a particular quote that I cite in the book. This was Paracelsus, who is considered to be the father of toxicology. The bulk of what we use now as truth in internal medicine, it came from this gentleman. And when you look at it, what he said was, the spirit is the master. The spirit is the master. Imagination, the tool. And the body, the plastic material. The power of the imagination is a great factor in medicine. It may produce diseases in man, and it may cure them. Ills of the body may be cured by physical remedies or by the power of the spirit acting through the soul. So this idea that our consciousness precedes phenotypic expression, this idea that what is occurring in our mindset can affect our physiology.
But psychology plays a great factor in this, and we learned in it self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you think of all the negatives, that's what's going to gravitate towards you. And positive thoughts bring about positive behavior.
The power of positive thinking.
I think what Dr. Zach is saying is absolutely educative, but one of the problems that the people do is imagine that you become upset and then you become irate. You need to train your body immediately to collapse that type of an attitude immediately and start to think immediately in positive type of reactions. If you do that, then the reaction of fear or the reaction of anger disappear. And then you can control it. If you don't do that, then you become accustomed to be a person who constantly is living or in fear or in reacting emotionally negative. So that harm your spirit and harm also your health.
Yeah, it's like a fight or flight mode, really.
Perfect. I could have not said it any better. And I tell you, we're right now in the cradle of multiple tragedies. We're in Agoura Hills, which is by Thousand Oaks. Yes. We were with some of the grieving families who lost their children in this tragic shooting. We have fires that's spreading to Thousand Oaks and Agoura Hills. And I tell you, human beings, I mean, we, as the good doctor said, we get, when the trauma occurs, no one really teaches us the metabolism of the trauma. I mean, it's very easy to see how to metabolize the piece of steak or broccoli on our plate, but when something occurs for us, no one really teaches us how to metabolize the trauma, how to metabolize the guilt, the shame. So the residual of that, years, I mean, I sit across from people with prostate cancer, with breast cancer, with colon cancer. I don't think it's an accident that so many of the CEOs are getting cancer. Years of these residual feelings that they hold on to, it affects our physiology. You're absolutely right, Doctor.
Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much, Dr. Habib Sadeghi.
Wonderful conversation. Thank you, Doc.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
It's a privilege. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for being so progressive and really wanting to get this message out there to our listeners.
I don't know that we've ever been called progressive. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Doctor. Bye-bye. Definitely not progressive politically, but spiritually and mentally, very progressive show we are.